Of Lockdown Wolves. Today on the show, what positives can the Timberwolves take from the two home games, games 3 and 4, to win game 5 and extend the series back to Minnesota game 6? We'll talk about a couple things they did well in those home games, what to look forward to in tonight's game 5. It's all coming. Welcome in. You are Lockdown Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Hump Day and happy Timberwolves game day. It's game 5 tonight in OKC as the Wolves look to extend the Western Conference Finals back to Minnesota for a game 6 that would be at Target Center Friday night if they can win tonight. Today, I want to talk about some of the positives from games 3 and 4 at Target Center. I do think, obviously, the Wolves won game 3 in a blowout, and game 4 was a tight game. And I don't want to say, like, a lot of things in that game played out as we kind of expected much of the series to play out. So it wasn't fluky, but weird in that the Wolves only lost by a bucket when they had Anthony Edwards with a quiet offensive night. Julius Randle scoring 5 points. So we'll dig into some of the kind of, the good things that happened over the last 2 games and why we should still have some optimism going to game 5 this evening. And then also specific to the defensive strategy against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, what worked really well in game 3 that did not work in game 4 and why SGA was able to go off. So we'll kind of start there actually with the SGA stuff and the defensive side of things here in the first segment. And then we'll move on to some of the broader kind of themes as we head into game 5. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Okay, so one of the most obvious differences between game 3 and game 4, and there were many, from a massive Timberwolves blowout where garbage time started basically in the third quarter to a 2-point game that turned into a free throw battle with the Thunder fouling up 3 late, was one of the most obvious differences with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? He had 30 plus in each of the first 2 games, had just 14 points on like 30% shooting in game 3, and ended up only playing 28 minutes, of course, but like was outscored by TJ Shannon in game 3. And then game 4, Shai gets 40 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds, and like completely different game. What was the biggest difference? Well, it's actually related to something we talked about leading into game 3 that the Wolves could try and do. And then coming out of game 3, we talked about this a little bit on Monday. Minnesota did not extend their pick and roll, did not extend their ball pressure as much as they typically do. Minnesota is one of the teams in the league that will pressure the ball closer to the timeline, and occasionally even in the backcourt, they'll put ball pressure on whoever has the ball in their hands. And one of the Thunder adjustments early in the series was don't make SGA bring the ball up the court as much, right? Minnesota does this with Ant all the time to save some, to save his energy, to save some stress from the night for Anthony Edwards. Like, hey, let's not make him initiate all the way up the floor. Let's give it to Conley or Alexander Walker or whatever. The Thunder kind of made that same adjustment. When it is SGA, though, Minnesota was still pressuring like they did against Jamal Murray last year in the playoffs, or like we saw them do against like the Lakers, right? Like the Lakers could not handle the ball pressure that Minnesota put on them. You could say the same thing about a Steph-less Warriors team, where you're really making the other team work. And when it's a team with a older, shorter rotation like the Lakers, or a team that just, with no Steph is really void of talent. Yeah, Golden State was playing 11, 12 guys, but they only had like a small handful that should have been playing in a playoff series. That had more of an impact than it's having against an OKC team that has, legit goes like 9 deep that can play in the playoffs. And it's a younger team. It's a more athletic team. And also SGA is one of the best 2 or 3 players in the entire world. So that's had less of an impact. However, or I shouldn't say however, the other side, the other piece of that is SGA is just so great at manipulating that. You're not going to steal the ball. You're not going to pick SGA's pocket. We saw Rudy do it on a blitz, right? Surprising blitz in game 3 that became a big highlight. Like, you're going to do it occasionally, but the risk reward just isn't there if you're Minnesota, because more often than not, he's not going to turn the ball over. He's just going to walk you down take advantage of that pressure, get his head and shoulders past you, probably hook you, and then very likely draw a foul, maybe hit an and one from the mid-range. Like, that's what SGA does. He's an incredible shooter from the mid-range. Whether or not he gets fouled, he'll make it even if he is fouled. He'll probably, like I said, he'll probably hook you to get fully past you. And Jaden McDaniels found that out the hard way in the first couple of games of the series. So Minnesota's game 3 adjustment was, let's not pick him up so high on the floor. Let's wait until the pick and roll initiates closer to the top of the circle and then stick with him and not give him a runway to walk into some of these mid-range shots that he likes to shoot. Let's not give him the opportunity to hook us on the perimeter and get his head and shoulders past us and put us on his hip to start with. So Minnesota started picking him up later. So in game 3, what did that mean? That meant that SGA wasn't able to get to the line as much. He was a little bit more prone to turning the ball over. It gave the Wolves, it just clogged things up a little bit more rather than SGA being able to kind of draw things out, spread the floor really vertically. It's another way to kind of vertically space. And that was the Wolves' adjustment, was like, hey, let's it was unexpected if you're SGA, right? And it made SGA be a little bit more of a decision maker instead of, oh, this guy's guarding me closely, I'm just gonna walk him down and hit this mid-range shot, which is tough for anybody else, but really good for me. And also the other thing that does is it creates more traffic, right? Not only is it not giving SGA that runway to step into what he wants to do, or all that space to get his head and shoulders past you and hook you, there's just less space around the screen. There's more help there. You have guys that can play the gap, similar to how we talked about this on Monday's show after the game 3 win. More help in the gaps, which is how teams are playing Anthony Edwards. And you also could just create more traffic to make life a bit more difficult for SGA. They forced, I think, 4 turnovers against Shai 4 turnovers to just 6 assists. And again, 14 points on 13 shots. Now, SGA's adjustment for game 4 was, if they're going to do this, I'm just going to shoot more threes. If they're going to go under screens, I'm going to shoot more threes and be a playmaker for others. Well, that worked, obviously. He ended up with 40 points. Now, a lot of that was free throws, especially late in the game, the foul game, etc. And he ended up, 14 free throw attempts. But that is a lot of what SGA does anyway, right? Is getting to the free throw line. So he ended up with 40. But Minnesota forced him into 7 3-point attempts. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was just 2 of 7 on threes in this game. The whole thing, I mean, this is basically playoff basketball anyway, in a nutshell, because of the quality of play and the quality of the teams that are left at this stage. It's pick your poison, right? So I think the strategy the Wolves had in game 4, despite losing, was the right strategy. Going under screens, taking away the runway for the mid-range attempts and the free throw attempts, taking away the ability for him to get deep and do that or create for others from inside the arc. Instead, give him a little bit more space, make him shoot threes. He was 2 of 7 on threes. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's like 37% of the season. He's probably, if he gets another 7 threes, he's probably going to make 3. Like, fine. It is what it is. It's better than free throws all day. It's better than him getting deep to create for others. And look, if he wants to get off the ball, which is another option, and he did a bit more of that in game 4 as well, was giving the ball up early in a possession or out of that screen and roll when it is cluttered, and then getting it back, which is something he's better at doing than Anthony Edwards is, at least with consistency at this stage in Ant's career. That's fine. Again, it's pick your poison. Is J-Dub really going to drop, what do you have, 36 or something in this game, 34? Is J-Dub really going to drop, 34 on 24 shots? Is J-Dub really going to score 34 2 straight games? He might. He's an all-star. He's an all-NBA player. But you'd still rather roll those dice of J-Dub scoring 34 and Chet scoring 21, or, Lou Dort launching threes, or Alex Caruso launching threes. That's the dice roll. The whole thing is pick your poison. So to make Shai, who's a good, not great 3-point shooter, shoot pull-up threes and make him pass to others is better. And it's the opposite of what the Wolves typically do defensively. Maybe not the exact opposite, but basically the opposite, right? Because it's in the Wolves' DNA to allow the mid-range. It's in the Wolves' DNA to play drop and to let Rudy contest the mid-range. It's in the Wolves' DNA to make a star player work in the middle of the floor to try and score against them. It's not in their DNA to go under screens and allow 3-point shots. It's not in their DNA to give space like this. But that's what they have to do in a pick your poison situation. Now, they have to win 3 games in a row doing it. Can they win game 5 doing it? Absolutely. Can they win 3 in a row? I don't know. You're going to need some other stuff to go your way. That's just how it is when you're down 3-1. We've rarely seen it in NBA history. It just, at this point, it just is what it is. But you got to focus on winning the next game. And the right strategy to me is defend SGA similar to how you did it in both games 3 and 4. Yes, SGA adjusted to your adjustment in game 4, and he took the threes you gave him, and he got off the ball a little bit more, and J-Dub shot 13 of 24. Dude made some tough shots late in this game. He also made some open threes because SGA did get deep and was able to kick the ball out, like the one where he almost traveled. He threw the ball between McDaniel's legs, and J-Dub hits the three. I mean, Williams is 6 of 9 on threes in this game. He's probably not going to do that again. And Shai still turned it over 5 times, by the way. So if it really is a pick your poison situation, I believe that it is. You're not going to shut down the OKC Thunder, except for with the adjustment on Saturday, which I know people are trying to clown Chris Finch after being down 3-1 in the series, which first of all is silly. He brought them to the conference finals 2 straight years. But second of all, the adjustment he made on Saturday was genius. They blew them out on Saturday with the adjustment. I don't know that there is a counter to what the Thunder's counter was. I think the Thunder did what you wanted them to do. If they weren't going to, obviously they made an adjustment off of Saturday's game. Where else do they go from here? What else would your adjustment be if you're Minnesota? I think the right play, this was a 1-possession game in which neither Ant or Julius Randle scored. The Wolves were in this game to the end and had a chance to win because the defensive strategy was sound. I would do the same thing in game 5. Know that the Thunder are going to take what you give them, which is clearly what Dagno's, what Mark Dagnall's plan is look, Shai, shoot the 3. Shai, get off the ball. Fine. That's great. It's better than Shai doing what Shai normally does. So if you're the Wolves, I'm okay with that. All right, a couple more things I want to hit here, and we'll do that next as we preview tonight's Game 5. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at DoorDash. NBA fans, you know what time it is. It's conference finals time. That means big performances and even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for DashPass members throughout the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swish, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, DashPass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day. Just place an order of $20 or more. Use the code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. Offer valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. I don't know what your go-to move is going to be if Ant drops 50 tonight. He was quiet offensively. Lots of people called him out on the TV airwaves this week after the lackluster scoring performance. I don't know. Ant may score 50. If anybody scores 50, it could. Hopefully it's not, but it could even be SGA. Your go-to move could easily be grabbing some Wingstop from DoorDash for Thursday during the day. Here's the play. Sign up for DashPass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 or more in a playoff game, DashPass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order, $20 or more order, and code Wingstop50. That's DashPass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. All right. So the SGA defensive coverage, I think it made sense in Game 4. I know they lost the game. They lost by a bucket. Could have gone a lot of different ways. In a pick-your-poison situation, it is better to force others to try and score and force SGA to try and make threes that hopefully you're still getting a decent contest on, even if you're going under the screen. That's the advantage of having the length of a Jaden McDaniels, to a lesser extent, Alexander Walker. I think that's huge. The other thing we got to look out for tonight is Anthony Edwards. I'm here to defend Ant a little bit. I did this on Tuesday's show following Monday night's loss. I know that Ant caught some flack after Monday night's performance. The usual suspects are going to call it, your Stephen A. Smiths and stuff like that. And I was on the leading edge of defending Ant's performance on Monday. But it's a little bit of both could be true, right? Like Ant's got to score more than 16 points. It doesn't mean he made the wrong plays all night. I actually thought Ant made a lot of the right plays. And Ant defended his own performance after the game. And I think Chris Finch, if I remember right, his comments were somewhere in the middle, like, hey, he got better as the game went on. I agree 100% with Chris Finch. I thought early Ant was a little too passive's not the right word, but because we also don't want Ant hunting his shot over double teams, shooting threes. Like, that's not what you want either. I think there's a little bit more of trying to get downhill early in the game. And we saw Ant do this a couple of times. There was that one where he turned the corner on a double team. He did this a bunch in Game 3, by the way, where they tried to put 2 on the ball and Ant just turned the corner. That's the sort of thing he can do. And it's the sort of thing we saw him not do last year in the conference finals when I think he ran out of gas against the Mavericks. He just got worn down. That it doesn't necessarily feel like that in this series. I don't feel like he's as tired as he was in the Dallas series last year. And we saw this late in game 4, not late, it was maybe third quarter. He turned the corner on a double team, and it looked like he was going to throw down a two-handed dunk, but he just laid it in because he wasn't quite close enough to the rim. Like that sort of a play where we know he can have that burst and split a double or get around the double. He's one of the few guys in this league that can actually do that. Can you do it? Should you do it on every possession? No, that is how you run out of gas. And it also could be a bit of a dangerous situation to try and, squeeze between the double and the sideline. We've seen Ant turn it over in that situation. But I think early in the game, if OKC is going to be aggressive in their coverage, you have to be aggressive in response. And here's the thing. If Ant hits 2 more of those threes, I mean, he was 1 for 7 on threes, and he had a couple go in and out. Say he's 3 for 7. We're looking at a 22-point game on 13 shots. And what would we be saying? I mean, at least what would most people be saying? Stephen A. Smith may be like, oh, you still got to score 40 or whatever. But we'd be talking about a 22-point game on 13 shots. That's pretty efficient with 6 assists. Like, that's not a bad night. The Wolves only lost by a bucket. And that was Ant's point after the game, was I think I made the right plays. I trusted my teammates. And guess what? He had 3 teammates go for 20 plus, and none of them were named Julius Randle or Anthony Edwards. It came from unexpected places because Ant made the right play and those guys made the open shots. That's what we've been saying all playoffs is if these guys, if Nikhil and Dante and Conley and McDaniels, if these guys are knocking down the open 3-point shot attempts, the Wolves are going to be in really good shape. And they didn't do that, right? Like closeout game against Lakers, game 1 loss to the Warriors when Steph wasn't on the floor. Like they weren't making those shots. And now they are. You're just not quite getting the Ant piece of it because he was the one distributing the basketball. And I thought Ant actually overall played an okay game. You just need a little bit more aggressiveness early to set the tone. And Ant loves playing on the road, and maybe we see a little bit of that tonight against OKC. I do think he will be that much more aggressive early. Again, it's more about tone setting than it is about the actual volume of shots. It'd be great if he shot the ball more than 13 times, but I mean, what's the right number? Like, how many shots should he shoot? Should he score 30 on 20 shots? Like, then what happens in terms of his teammates? Like, those guys aren't scoring. So I don't really care. I mean, like 6 assists to 5 turnovers, the assists should come up a little. Great. Yeah. But again, if he hits a couple more threes of those 7 he took, we're talking about a 20-plus point game on 13 shots and still 6 assists and still 3 teammates scored 20-plus. But the Wolves scored 126 points. So it's a really kind of novice thing to point at this and be like, Ant only scored 16. Like, okay, but what else happened in this game? Let's dig a layer deeper. Did he create for others? Yeah. Did he mostly shoot the right shots? Yeah. Did he get to the free throw line? Yeah, he had 7 free throws. That's partly why he only had 13 field goal attempts, because he got to the line. Did his teammates score? Were they making shots? Yes. The Wolves shot 44% from 3, in large part due to Ant's gravity. And the corner 3-point shots we identified before the series, OKC gives up a ton of corner threes. They live and die with the turnover thing. It's and I said this very early in previewing the series. It's a little bit of like a billion times better and much more souped up. So this is silly, but if you're a Wolves fan that's been around the team for a few years, you'll know what I'm saying. It's a souped up version of the Timberwolves defense in the first year under Chris Finch, pre-Rudy Gobert, with Jared Vanderbilt and Patrick Beverley. That kind of breakneck, wreak havoc. Like, our offense isn't good enough to score in the half court. Our defense isn't good enough to play straight up, but we've got some long, annoying defenders. We've got Karl Anthony Towns, who's actually pretty good at blitzing, but he's bad in drop. Like, let's just play nutso on the perimeter and try and turn you over and score in transition. But if a team is smart and they figure you out, they can beat you at the rim or in the corners because there's no backline rim protection. You're trying to guard essentially 2 guys on the backside with 1, and you can get an open quarter 3 or a dunk. That's basically, it's not the exact same scheme, and it's certainly much better personnel than that Wolves team had, but that's kind of the idea. And they're much more disciplined too, of course. So the Thunder are going to give up either some shots at the rim, and we saw this in game 3. We saw it with Rudy in quarter 3 of that game. Or they're going to give up quarter 3s. We saw it in quarter 3 of this game too, actually, by the way. Or you're going to give up offensive rebounds, you're going to give up buckets at the rim, and you're going to give up corner 3-point opportunities. The Thunder give up corner 3-point opportunities like crazy. They were bottom 3 in the league in opponent 3-point attempt. But they're great at contesting threes, and they also would sell it even more to do that against teams they knew they could get away with it against. And Minnesota has some really good corner 3-point shooters. Between Mike Conley, Dante DiVincenzo are the two, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those three are all really good for the corners. And McDaniels, by the way, has gotten really good at attacking closeouts from the corners. So again, the strategy wasn't that far off of game 4. The Thunder just got an incredible SGA performance, and they had J-Dub hitting crazy shots. They had some timely shots from Chet Holmgren, but like the bench didn't do a whole lot. They still turned it over, 15, 16 times. It's just the Wolves turned it over too much and gave up too many offensive rebounds. I don't think the game 4 strategy was that bad. As I identified a little bit ago, I think the SGA strategy stays similar. I think Ant just needs to be a little more aggressive early and set that tone. And there's a couple more things I want to hit here briefly before we close out the show, and that's what we'll do next. All right, so Timberwolves strategy on SGA can look similar in game 4 or game 5 as it did to game 4. Ant's got to be a little more aggressive early, but again, I thought he played well, made the right decisions overall. It'd be great if he scored a little bit more. At one of these games, he's going to have one of those crazy 3-point. I guess we're running out of time. It's got to be tonight. If he's going to have a crazy 3-point performance, that would be a lot of fun, especially in OKC. The other thing is maybe super obvious and probably where the talk shows should have gone instead of blaming Anthony Edwards is Julius Randle's performance. Julius Randle's performance was almost strictly due to aggression, lack of aggression, which obviously can't happen in game 4 of a playoff series. And for as up and down as Julius has been in this series, it really has been due to how much it's appeared as though he wants it or doesn't want it from night to night, which is a bit of a concern. I mean, he's had 2 20-plus point performances and 2 single-digit performances, I believe. I'm trying to pull up the game log now, but I'm pretty sure that's where we're at for this series for Julius Randle. He had 5 points on 7 shots in the game 4 loss. 5 points on 7 shots, and to make matters worse, he also had 5 turnovers to only 3 assists. He shot 1 of 7 from the floor, 0 of 3 from outside the arc. Yeah, I was right. He had 28 points in the game 1 loss, which is a blowout loss. And turned into a blowout loss. I mean, they lost by, 26. He only had 6 points in the game 2 loss. 6 points. And 6 points on 11 shots. Game 3 blowout win, 24 points on 15 shots. Had some great moments there at home. And then game 4, 5 points on 7 shots in 28 minutes and turned it over 5 times. In the series, Julius Randle has turned the ball over 14 times and has only 12 assists. That, to me, is a bigger issue than the scoring. The decision-making, the quick decision-making we saw, especially throughout the Warriors series, but really throughout the playoffs so far. I mean, game 1 against the Lakers wasn't great when he had 16 points on 11 shots and turned it over 7 times. But since that point, Julius had 20-plus points in every single playoff game except the game 1 loss against Golden State, and he had 18 in that game. So in 8 of the last 9 playoff games going into this series, or you could even include game 1 against OKC, 9 of the last 10 playoff games, he'd scored 20 plus. And now he has 6 points and 5 points in 2 of the last 3 games. And I think it's more a matter of not being aggressive and not wanting, apparently, the smoke that Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams and others have given Julius Randle. Julius has to bow up in this game. He has to say, look, I can't let a smaller guy guard me like this. I have to go into his chest. And yes, I know he had the one off an offensive rebound in the second half that ended up being called an offensive or a no call. I think initially it was a defensive foul against Holmgren and they overturned it to a no call. Julius just has to go right at the chest of guy. Like, he's just got to do that. And then when he gets stopped, which is going to happen, or when he gets into a tough spot, if he can't get his shot off, he needs to make the right play instead of just turning the ball over. I know that sounds a lot easier than it actually is, and it probably it does sound a lot easier than it actually is against this particular defense, but he's got to find a way to do it if they're going to win this game. He's got to start with more aggression, which he hasn't done in this series, and then the decision-making has to be more on point, because, again, I think the 14 turnovers to 12 assists is worse than the lack of scoring. If Julius puts up 16 points, but he has 8 assists and 1 turnover, 2 turnovers, that's a great performance for Julius Randle. The Wolves will take that. In fact, that first game against the Lakers, when they blew the Lakers out in game 1 of the whole playoffs, he only had 16 points and he turned it over 7 times, but he had 5 assists in that game. And he shot 6 of 11 and he made 4 threes. Like, the decision-making a couple of those turnovers were pretty sloppy, but overall, the when do I shoot versus when do I pass decision making was fine, and we haven't seen that in the OKC series. And I don't have like a schematic adjustment here, like I discussed with the defensive strategy or with Ant just being a little bit more aggressive early. This is more just Julius has to take it to the Thunder. He's got to take it in the defender's chest, take it to the defender's chest. He's got to make quicker decisions. He has to play with more force. That's completely on Julius Randle. That's not a scheme adjustment for Chris Finch. That is just Julius saying, I got the ball because Ant got off the ball. I'm either going to swing it, I'm going to drive and kick it back to Ant, I'm going to attack the guy, straight at his chest and try and score in the paint. I mean, outside of Chet Holmgren, this team's not blocking shots. At least there's not true rim protection. Like, there's no reason Julius Randle can't play like he did in Game 3 against the OKC Thunder. We need to see that in this series. And by the way, Game 1, he scored 28 points. He was 5 of 6 on threes. Like, we know Julius Randle can do that. Like, he's done it more often than not in the playoffs. It's just he's put up his 2 worst games in probably 3 months in 2 of the last 3 games. And he can't do that while J-Dub is putting up 34 for the Thunder. I mean, that was the biggest difference. We talked about this on Tuesday's show, that the Wolves, like ancillary guys, they're role players, the Nikhils and the Dantes and the Jadens, like those guys did what they needed to do more so than the Thunder. But it was the second stars, if you want to include Holmgren and J-Dub, that did it. Julius Randle did not do it. Rudy had a stretch in the third where he was good, but like wasn't active enough offensively on the offensive glass. Well, he had a fair amount of offensive rebounds on the defensive glass, actually, when it comes to Rudy. Like, there's some of that stuff that just needed to be cleaned up for Minnesota, and they've got to do it. It's now or never in Game 5. By the way, the Wolves are 8.5-point underdogs on FanDuel for tonight's game, which is kind of crazy. I think both games 1 and 2, they were 7.5-point underdogs, and I guess the Thunder covered in both of those games, so I keep kind of ripping on these lines, and they're right. 8.5 for an elimination game feels a little high, but we have seen teams, especially against the Thunder in the first 2 rounds, teams were ready to go. They were ready to be done against OKC. And OKC smells blood in the water. They're at home, so I get it. I do think the Wolves win this game. I also think it'll be a close game. If the Wolves don't win it, it's going to be close. So, I mean, like, Wolves plus 8.5, fine. I don't hate that. This is going to be a game very similar to Game 4. We've seen Minnesota with their backs against the wall perform extremely well all season when people don't believe in them. And they seem to like to take it to opposing crowds. Before the series, Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder picked the Thunder in 6, and he, I think, said exactly, I think his pick was splitting. I think he actually did say winning both games in OKC, splitting in Minnesota, and then the Wolves forcing a Game 6 back in Minnesota and the Thunder winning Game 6. I'm almost positive that was his prediction, which if the Wolves win tonight, that's obviously on the table with Game 6 in Minnesota on Friday night. I picked the Wolves in 7, which obviously that's the only way the Wolves win the series at this point. So I don't know, from the mouth of Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder, he thought the Wolves would win Game 5 back before the series started. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a great game. And again, if Game 4 is any indication, it should be. Hopefully we get a bit more fun than a free throw battle down the stretch. All right, that's all I got for you today here on the show. Of course, the live postcast will be at Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube immediately following the game. Our guys, Luke Inman and Jack Borman, will break it down, and then I'll be back on Thursday morning with the postgame pod. Win or lose, if the Wolves lose, we'll do a regular postgame pod, and then Friday do kind of a rapid playoff decompress before we move into full offseason stuff next week. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Wolves have I just said, I think the Wolves will win tonight. So, and then of course, if they do, we'll do postgame pod Thursday. We'll preview Game 5 or Game 6, I guess it'll be on Friday for Friday's show. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Also, for your second listen, go check out the Locked On NBA Big Board show. Believe it or not, the draft is only a few weeks away, and the Wolves have a pick. I actually just made a selection for a Locked On NBA draft. We'll talk about who I picked there later. We'll talk about what the Wolves need to fill out their roster, obviously up against the cap. But for your second listen, go check out the Locked On NBA Big Board show for some great analysis. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow will react to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, the Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.